Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today's review is at Llanymynech Golf Club. Llanymynech borders on England and Wales, so there's 3 holes that are played in England and 15 holes that are played in Wales. Llanymynech sits about 15 minutes outside of Shropshire in Shropshire, and Llanymynech is a par 70. We were playing off the yellow tees today, which measures at a little over 6,000 yards. As normal, we'll be doing a review based on 5 factors, so the general feel of facilities, course condition, course layout and the course difficulty, and then finally we'll finish off with a little bit about the value of what we paid and did I feel that it was worth it. So on to the general feel and facilities. I've given this a score of 3 out of 5. If I'm perfectly honest, the facilities are really basic. You do have a small clubhouse that can offer all the normal facilities. There is a very minimal amount of sort of practice and warm-up facilities. There is a driving range actually, and it does cut across the 18th fairway, which I've never seen before. Also, something that I found really weird was that you have to supply your own balls for the driving range, and ultimately if you're supplying your own balls then you're going to have to fetch them. So it is more like a practice area, but just beware that you are going to have to fetch your balls afterwards. The course condition, I've given this a 5 out of 5. I honestly couldn't fault the condition of the course. The fairways were immaculately cut, the greens were perfect, they were running really true. And it also hadn't looked like it had been played a lot over the summer or the winter, which is actually really great to see. So absolute credit to the green staff. They clearly had put a lot of work into making this course look so good. For the course layout, I've given this a score of 4 out of 5. I really like a hilltop style of golf course. Some of the views around the course are so impressive. The front 9 does play a little bit easier than the back 9. You really do get a feel of that hilltop style of golf course a little bit more on the back 9, and does make it even more challenging. But it's really good to see that you get so many amazing views from the top of the hill, especially around the sort of middle section of the golf course. Some of the views really are impressive, and I'll put some of them into the video just so you can get a bit of a gauge of how impressive they are. On to the course difficulty. Again, I've given this a score of 4. It's a really good challenge, some really nice holes, lots of different sort of approaches, lots of different turns into the fairways, and again some really nice blind shots that you're going to need to be able to play to really master this golf course. Golf course offers a really good blend of forgiveness and sort of punishment if you do go a little bit wide. So to really score well, you are going to have to bring your A game to this course. And finally, onto the value. We paid £40 for the round on a Friday in the middle of summer. This was a complete bargain. I would happily pay more for this round, and I did actually see something on Instagram, and obviously it must be true if it's on Instagram, that this course is in the top 100 courses for under £40, and I can certainly see why. It is an incredible bargain. It is in the middle of nowhere, so you are going to have to drive a little bit to get to it, but again, well worth a visit. So this will give Llanymynech a score of 22 out of 25. A really great course and certainly worth a visit. So if you have made it this far, please like and comment onto the video. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, and also subscribe to the channel for more reviews around the Midlands especially. Hole 1, and a relatively short par 3 at only 100 to 160 yards here. The difficulty here is actually finding the green. The green is a bit of a funny shape and does sort of wrap around the tree that you'll see to the right hand side of the green there. Almost irrespective of the pin, I would just aim for the left hand side of the green. This is going to be the widest part, and it also will sort of give you the biggest room for error. There is a bit of space out to the left, also to the back, and also to the right hand side if you do go a little bit too far right, but I'd also just really aim to the left hand side. Quite a generous sized green. It is like an upturned down saucer, so you will find that the ball does run off if you do miss ever so slightly, and will leave you an uphill putt from pretty much most angles. There isn't too much movement around this green, however, again, just due to the size of it, just be mindful of maybe 3 putting here. It is potentially on the cards. Hole 2, and a good length par 5 here. The difficulty off the tee is that you're going to have to try and position yourself to then give yourself 2 shots into the green. So I'd recommend playing no more than about 250 yards. There is some trees at the far side of the fairway. You won't want to go in those, else you will going to have to be forced into laying up. You will see that there's a telephone wire or an electricity wire. You do get relief if you do hit it. Also, there is a pylon in the middle of the fairway, so do try and miss that. After the first shot, you're just going to have to set yourself up for an approach into the green. I would lay up again just to your favourite yardage. Just be mindful of the trees that are down the left hand side. Anything out to the right is out of bounds. The fairway also slopes from left to right, so anything that is particularly missed to the right hand side will go a little bit closer to that out of bounds. The green is pretty small, so for the approach to the green, I would just give yourself another half a club or just play the yardage to the back of the green. This should factor into that elevation change. This green isn't particularly big and will slope from the back to the front. Again, shouldn't find too much movement to the back portion of this green, but just be mindful that there is a slight false front to the entrance to this green. Hole 3, and another relatively short par 3 at no more than about 130 to 140 yards. You do play over a little bit of a valley. The green is quite tightly packed, so you have got trees pretty much the entire way round this green. You have got a bit more space out to the back, so with this in mind, I would just play to the yardage to the back of the green. This should allow you anything to be mishit. If it does come up a little bit short of that yardage to the back of the green, it will only find the green and you won't find yourself in the bottom of the valley. The green itself is fairly spacious. If anything, there is a slight slope from left to right as you approach the green, but again, you're probably not going to find too much movement across any of the putts around this green. Hole 4, and a relatively short par 4 here. Off the tee though, it does play quite significantly downhill. Off the tee, you do have the option of cutting off the corner, and for most golfers, you will be able to cut the corner a little bit. You're probably going to want to play no more than a club that plays about 220 yards. Anything further than that, you are going to risk going too far over to the back of the fairway. If you are going to take on the corner though, you do not want to miss left. If anything, you're going to want to miss right. If you are aiming sort of straight down the fairway, again, you're going to have to be really accurate with this tee shot, because anything too far right, you will find the trees and you won't find your ball in there. Anything to the left, and again, it's going to be the same issue. For the approach to the green, this will likely play slightly uphill, so I would play the yardage to the back of the green. The green has a bunker at the front, and you will also notice that it is a split tier green with the back portion of the green being slightly raised to the bottom portion. Almost irrespective of where the pin is, I would just play the yardage to the middle of the green. This is going to give you the most room for error. It is quite narrow, but it is quite long in length, so again, that yardage control isn't that much of an issue here, but accuracy will be. Hole 5, and a tough par 4 that doglegs to the left. Off the tee, you're going to want to hug the trees that are down the left hand side of the fairway. If you do miss into the trees, it isn't going to be the end of the world. You will be able to find your ball. However, you will be forced into playing it through the trees and probably giving yourself a bit of a shorter shot into the green there. There's plenty of space out to the right hand side, so if you are going to miss, that is your place to miss. However, it will leave you with a long uphill shot towards the green. The green is quite significantly elevated to the fairway that's below. You're going to need to take at least 1, maybe 2 clubs to allow for the elevation change. The green is quite a spacious one, and there is plenty of space around there, especially to the left hand side. But the best miss here is going to be long and right, as this has got the most room for error and probably the easiest chance at getting you up and down. The green has quite a bit of movement around the green, and from depending what angle you're at, you are going to notice either quite an uphill putt if you are in that sort of back right corner, or a little bit of movement towards the left hand side if the pin is tucked over to the left hand side, as it was when we played. On the card, this is quite a lengthy par 3 for hole 6 at just over 180 yards. However, as you'll see on the video, it is quite significantly downhill. It plays at least 1 club shorter, maybe even 1.5 clubs. The green slopes from back to front, and just with 1 bunker short right, I would play the yardage to the front of the green, as this will allow for that elevation change. Missing the green short will be better than missing long. There is plenty more room short of this green than there is at the long hand side, and there is trees to the left side of this green, so it will leave a tough shot to get up and down for if you are in that left hand side. Also towards the back of the green there is a runoff area. Again, that's only going to add to the difficulty of trying to get up and down. Once you get to the green though, as I mentioned, the green runs from back to front, so do expect some movement, and that will be quite a slippy putt if the pin is tucked at the front as it was on our day. Hole 7, and a fairly long par 4. It does play a little bit shorter, and that's just because of where the tee position is. You'll notice that you are quite elevated from the fairway. For most golfers though, I would just pick your biggest club and aim for the gap that is separating the fairways. There is a bit of a stream that sort of runs down the middle of the two fairways, but if you find that middle, that would be super unfortunate. You've got acres of space then, either side, either left or right for you to go. From them, this should leave you no more than a wedge into the green. From the fairway though, you will be able to play a slightly uphill shot to a green that is slightly raised. There is a false front to the front of this green. There is banks pretty much all the way around the back of this green, so if you do hit it a little bit longer than you anticipate, then you do have a bit of a backstop there. The green is pretty flat most of the way around this hole, so no particular movement around most of the putts here. Hole 8, and a short par 4 that doglegs to the right. Off the tee, you're going to want to play about no more than 230 yards off the tee. Anything longer than about 210 will leave you in a perfect position just to get yourself around the corner, and then you can go and attack the green. Anything past 230, you will find the trees that are on the left, and again, just a reminder of that little brook that is running down the left hand side of the fairway. Anything too short on the right, you are just going to be blocked out from the green, and you will be forced into playing round. For the approach to the green, you will be playing slightly uphill towards the green. There is a bunker short right as you approach the green, so just be mindful of that. I would recommend just playing the yardage to the middle of the green. Anything too short, there is a bit of a false front, and there is a bit of space out towards the back if you do go a little bit too long. You won't find too much movement around this green, apart from if the pin is right at the front and you do miss short, then there is, as I mentioned, that false front. Hole 9, and a long par 5 here. The aim for the first two shots is just to get as close to the road that cuts across the fairway as possible. This should come at about 390 to 400 yards off the tee. The perfect tee shot will need to be more than about 230 yards though, as this will clear the trees that's on the left hand side. It is quite a narrow fairway, and you do have a bit of a bank on the right hand side of this fairway, so it does help you out a little bit. As I mentioned, just get as close to that road as possible. If you can get past it, this should leave you no more than about 90 yards into the green. It does get a little bit narrow towards where the road is, and it does turn ever so slightly to the right, so favour the left hand side of the green if you can. The green itself will be slightly raised from the fairway, and again there is a false front protecting the front of this green. The green is also shaped like a bit of an upturned down saucer, so there will be runoff areas around most of this green. So just be mindful of that when playing with the green, but there's plenty of space around in all sides of this green. So if you do miss the green, it probably isn't the end of the world, but it will leave you with a tough up and down. Hole 10, and a really tricky par 3 here. You are going to have to play completely over the valley. There is very little room for error on this tee shot. It does play slightly uphill towards the green, so what I would recommend playing at least one more club, or at least play the yardage to the back of the green. There are two bunkers protecting the front right of this green, which are actually quite difficult to see from the tee box, so again just play long, If you are going to miss anywhere, I'd probably put it in these bunkers, even though I made a bit of a meal out of it. Anything too far left will likely fall down the hill and will leave you a really tough up and down. There is a bank to the back of this green, so if you are going to go anywhere, longer is probably safer. The green slopes from left to right, or basically back to front as you approach it. So do expect a bit of movement around this green, especially if you're putting across the green. You will notice that it does move quite left to right or right to left depending where you are. Hole 11 and a short par 4. The longer hitters, this is probably reachable yardage wise, however I would not recommend this at all. This tee shot is completely blind. I'd recommend playing a club that's no more than about 200 yards just to get yourself over the hill. You will notice that the aiming stick is a little bit to the left hand side. You do have quite a bit of space past the hill, so anything that is missed a little bit to the right probably isn't going to do you any harm. Anything too far left and you will just be risking going into the grasses down the left hand side and you won't find your ball here. If you are just going to lay up, then just be mindful of the two bunkers that are protecting the front of this green. You're just going to have to rely on your short game to get yourself as close to the pin as possible. The green itself is a split tier green, with the back portion being raised from the front portion. Again, you're going to expect some movements across all of these putts, and if the pin is at the back portion, which it was when we played, this is a really difficult pin to get at. Hole 12 and a long par 4 here. What I will say is just take some time just to appreciate the views. You're at the top of the golf course here and you have miles and miles of hills that you can see from the top. It really is a stunning place to just take a bit of a break. Off the tee though, again you're just going to want to play as long as possible. I would try and get down the fairway no more than about 250 yards though, as there is a bit of a raise that's in the middle of the fairway. If you are sort of resting up this hill, this will be a tough shot into the green. It is quite narrow, this fairway, and anything to the left will be out of bounds, so if you are going to miss, I'd just favour that right hand side. There are some trees down there, but again you're going to find your ball and it is going to be quite easy to get out of. For the approach to the green, I would just recommend playing the yardage to the middle of the green. Do not miss left here. You have quite a bit of space out to the right hand side, so do favour that right hand side of the green. The green generally slopes from back to front. You won't find too much movement across any of the putts, but it will be a little bit quick as it gets down towards the front of the green. Hole 13 and another par 4 that plays a little bit shorter, and that is just due to the elevation of the tee box. Again, you can probably get down this fairway as far as possible, but just to let you know that anything too far left will just fall down that bank, and it is likely that you will lose the ball. If you are going to miss anywhere, probably miss out to the right hand side of this fairway. You will notice that there are trees all the way down the right hand side of this fairway, but you can find yourself out of there quite easily. I would recommend playing a club that plays about 220 yards off the tee. This should allow you to find the widest part of the fairway. For the approach to the green, this will be an uphill shot, so what I would recommend is playing the yardage to the back of the green, as this will allow you just to factor in that elevation change. The green generally slopes away from you, so that back portion of the green is a little bit lower. There is also a little bit of movement from left to right as you enter the green, so do factor in that if you have got quite a long putt down the bottom of this green. Hole 14 and a fairly short par 5 here. However, don't be fooled into thinking you can just go and overpower this hole. This is probably one of the tightest fairways that you'll find on the golf course and will require a really accurate tee shot. Favour the right hand side if anything, just because anything over to the left hand side you will be out of bounds and that will likely result in a lost ball. Also, you do have the option of the fairway that you just played down, and it isn't a bad position to be if anywhere. For your second and third shot, I would just aim to give yourself your favourite yardage into this green. This green is really small, however there is quite a bit of space around it, so if you do miss the green it probably isn't the end of the world. If anything, long and right is going to be the favourable shot to give yourself the best opportunity for getting up and down at. Just the one small bunker protecting the front right of this green, and this green is pretty flat most of the way around this green, so don't expect too much movement here. Hole 15 and another short par 4 here with another blind tee shot. You will see the aiming post in the distance. Anything to the right of that aiming post is probably going to be the safer option. So what I would recommend is just playing a club about 200 yards, as this will find the widest part of the fairway and leave you with a downhill shot into the green. The green is a really tough shot to try and get at. It's completely downhill. The green also slopes away from you, and it has quite a large deep bunker protecting the front of this green. I would recommend just playing the yardage to the front of the green just to allow for the elevation change, and this will also allow you to probably not go too far over the back, as anything too far long will be into the thick grass and probably lost. As I mentioned, the green does slope from front to back. You will find a bit of movement around most angles of this green, especially if you're at the back and putting uphill. Hole 16 and another fairly lengthy par 3 here. Off the tee though, you will be forced into playing completely uphill, so I would recommend playing the yardage to the back of the green. You also won't be able to see the bottom of the pin, so it is going to be difficult to know if you have hit the green or not. There is quite a bit of space surrounding this green, so if you don't feel like you've hit it, it isn't going to be the end of the world here. The green is pretty spacious, and there is a bit of movement from left to right as you enter the green, so do expect some movements across most of these putts. Hole 17 and another lengthy par 4 that plays entirely uphill. Off the tee, you're going to need to hit at least 170 yards to give yourself the opportunity to get past the trees. Getting down the fairway though as long as you possibly can will give you the best opportunity into the green. You do have a bit more space out to the right hand side, and there is a bit of a left turn to the fairway past about 200 yards. For the approach to the green, if you're going to miss anywhere, miss short and right. There's trees surrounding the left hand side and the back of this green, and you probably will lose your ball if you do find yourself in here. The green is tiny, so I would recommend just playing the yardage to the middle of the green, as this will allow you for anything missing short. The green generally slopes from back to front, so again do expect some movement across most angles of this green. Hole 18 and another interesting par 4 here. Again, another hole just to really take in the view that you get. You are quite elevated, you have views of all of the hills surrounding most of Shropshire, and you also get the view of the clubhouse. Off the tee though, I would recommend playing about a club that plays about 200 yards. This will give you the best opportunity to find the fairway. You will notice there is an elevation change, and this is at least one, maybe two clubs different. The run out to the back of the fairway is about 250 yards off the tee, but again, just factoring in that elevation change, you probably want to play no more than 230 yards here. The difficulty for this hole is trying to find the green from the fairway. The green is quite elevated and there's protected by a few hills just surrounding the front edge of this green. Green is shaped like an upturned down saucer, and you will find that there is runoff areas, especially at the front of the green. If you are going to miss, I would miss long, so play the yardage to the back of the green. You won't find too much movement around most of the putts from this green. It is fairly flat unless you are close to the edges.